What if the most valuable skill in the modern world is not speed, multitasking, or being available all the time? What if the real advantage is the ability to sit alone, think hard, and focus on one important thing without distraction? That is the central message of Cal Newport's deep work. Newport argues that deep work is becoming rare at the same time it is becoming more valuable. And in a world filled with emails, messages, open offices, social media, and endless digital noise, the people who can still concentrate deeply have a serious advantage. Deep work means working in a state of intense focus, without distraction, on a task that pushes your abilities and creates real value. It is the kind of work that helps a writer finish a book, a programmer solve a difficult problem, a student master a hard subject, or a leader think clearly about strategy. The opposite is shallow work. Shallow work is easy to do while distracted. It includes routine emails, status updates, low-value meetings, quick replies, and small administrative tasks. Some shallow work is necessary, but the danger is that it can fill your entire day while making you feel productive. You can spend 8 hours answering messages, switching tabs, and reacting to other people's requests, then end the day exhausted without producing anything meaningful. Newport begins the book with the image of Carl Jung building a stone tower in the countryside. Jung was not escaping work. He was creating a place where he could think deeply, away from the noise of professional life. That kind of protected concentration helped him produce original ideas. The point is not that everyone needs to move to the woods. The point is that serious thinking requires space. Newport believes deep work matters because the modern economy rewards people who can do two things: learn difficult skills quickly and produce high-quality work at a high level. Both require sustained attention. If your attention is constantly broken, learning becomes slower. If your day is filled with interruptions, your best ideas rarely have time to develop. This is why deep work is not just a productivity method. It is a career skill. Newport gives examples of people who use depth to become unusually valuable. Nate Silver became known for his data-driven election forecasting. David Heinemeier Hansson created Ruby on Rails and built serious leverage through rare technical skill. Adam Grant produced academic work at an exceptional pace by protecting long stretches of focused writing time. These people were not simply busy. They developed valuable abilities and produced valuable things. But most workplaces are moving in the opposite direction. Open offices, instant messaging, and constant connectivity make deep work harder. People are expected to be reachable, responsive, and visibly busy. But visibility is not the same as value. This is one of Newport's strongest warnings. When real productivity is hard to measure, people start using busyness as a substitute. If you answer quickly, attend many meetings, and look active online, it can feel like you are doing important work. But deep work often looks quiet from the outside. It may look like someone sitting alone, thinking, reading, writing, or solving one problem for several hours. That kind of work is easy to underestimate, but it is often where the real value is created. Newport's argument becomes even deeper when he explains that deep work is not only valuable, it is meaningful. To show this, he describes craftsmen like a blacksmith who spends hours shaping metal by hand. The work requires full attention. A small mistake can ruin the result, but that intensity also creates satisfaction. The craftsman is not scattered across 100 tiny distractions. His mind is fully engaged with the thing in front of him. Newport believes knowledge workers can experience something similar. When your attention is fragmented, your work often feels thin and stressful. But when you give full attention to a difficult task, the work can become more satisfying. You are no longer just reacting. You are building skill, solving problems, and creating something with care. This is why deep work is not only about doing more. It is about doing better work and living with more intention. So how do we actually practice it? The first rule is to work deeply. Newport says focus should not be left to chance. Most people wait for the perfect moment to concentrate. They think they will do deep work when the inbox is empty, when the office is quiet, or when they finally feel motivated. But that moment almost never comes. Deep work has to be scheduled and protected. Newport describes different ways to do this. Some people use a monastic approach, removing as many shallow obligations as possible. Others use a bimodal approach, dividing life into periods of deep isolation and periods of normal availability. Some use a rhythmic approach, doing deep work at the same time every day. Others use a journalistic approach, switching into deep work whenever time appears. For most people, the rhythmic approach is the easiest place to start. Choose a regular block of time. Make it predictable. Protect it. A deep work ritual should answer simple questions. Where will you work? When will you start? How long will the session last? What will you work on? What distractions are not allowed? How will you know the session was successful? These details matter because they reduce friction. If you have to decide everything from scratch every time, your attention is already being spent before the real work begins. Newport also talks about grand gestures. Sometimes a serious change in environment can signal to your brain that the work matters. Bill Gates was known for taking dedicated thinking weeks. Other writers and thinkers have used retreats, hotels, cabins, or isolated offices to create a psychological break from ordinary distraction. But the point is not luxury. The point is commitment. Deep work also requires rest. Newport argues that downtime is not the enemy of productivity. It helps the mind recover, make connections, and return with more energy. If you try to keep working mentally all the time, your ability to focus eventually weakens. A shutdown ritual can help. At the end of the workday, review what remains unfinished, decide when it will be handled, and then stop. This allows the mind to release work instead of carrying vague stress into the evening. Deep work is intense. That is why it needs boundaries. The second rule is to embrace boredom. This may sound strange, but Newport's point is simple. If you constantly train your brain to expect stimulation, you should not be surprised when it struggles to focus. Think about how often people reach for their phones. Waiting in line, sitting in a car, walking between rooms, taking a short break. The moment boredom appears, the hand moves toward a screen. These small moments seem harmless, but they train the brain to escape discomfort immediately. Then, when you sit down to do difficult work, your mind wants novelty. It wants a notification, a tab, a message, something easier than concentration. Newport suggests that we stop treating distraction as the default. Instead of taking occasional breaks from distraction to focus, make focus the default and schedule distraction deliberately. He also recommends practices like productive meditation, taking a walk, or doing a simple physical activity while holding one professional problem in your mind. The goal is to train attention the way you would train a muscle. The third rule is to quit social media, or more accurately, to use digital tools with much stricter standards. Newport is not saying every tool is bad. His argument is that most people use the wrong test. They ask, does this tool provide any benefit? But almost every tool provides some benefit. A better question is, does this tool strongly support the things that matter most in your work and life? If the benefit is small but the cost to your attention is high, the tool may not be worth it. This is the craftsman mindset. A skilled worker does not use every tool that has some possible value. He chooses the tools that best support his most important work. The fourth rule is to drain the shallows. Shallow work cannot disappear completely. Emails, meetings, and administrative tasks still exist, but they should not be allowed to quietly consume the whole day. Newport recommends scheduling your time deliberately. Instead of working from a vague to-do list, divide your day into blocks. Decide when deep work happens. Decide when shallow tasks happen. Decide when you stop. This may sound restrictive, but it creates clarity. It forces you to see where your time is really going. He also suggests becoming harder to reach in low-value ways. Not rude, not irresponsible, just more intentional. Check messages at specific times. Make meetings justify their cost. Do not let every small request automatically become your priority. The biggest lesson of deep work is that your attention shapes your life. Every day, you are training your mind. You are either training it to chase every interruption or training it to stay with difficult, meaningful work. The modern world will not make this easy. There will always be another message, another update, another meeting, another reason to postpone the hard thing. But deep work begins with one protected block of time. Choose one important task. Remove the obvious distractions. Work with full attention. Start with 30 minutes if you need to. Then do it again tomorrow. Over time, those sessions compound. You become better at learning, better at creating, better at solving problems, better at doing work that actually matters. That is the promise of deep work. In a distracted world, focus becomes a superpower. And the people who protect their attention will have a serious advantage. If you enjoyed this summary, subscribe to One Book in 10 Minutes. Every week, we take one best-selling book and turn its biggest ideas into practical lessons you can use in real life. One book, 10 minutes. Better you.